is a long tale. This is for the story of the Grim Reaper. Gather close and listen to this history of our landlord of life. There have been many personifications of death throughout the mythologies of various cultures, several of which may have contributed to the portrayal of death we now commonly refer to as the Grim Reaper. Charon from Greek mythology was a mysterious ferryman who guided the souls of the recently deceased across the river Styx. This servant of Hades is perhaps visually closest to depictions of the Grim Reaper, with his boatman's pole analogous to the Reaper's long scythe. The Greeks also had Kronos, the personification of time and its destructive ravages, which also gave rise to the concept of Father Time. Those ties to time and the harvest may have inspired the Reaper's hourglass and scythe. Although rooted in ancient mythologies, it is believed that the first depiction of death as the scythe-wielding robed skeletal figure referred to as the Grim Reaper first appeared in the 14th century during the plague. A horrifying pandemic that resulted in the loss of millions of lives from the Black Death. It is estimated that as much as 1/3 of the European population perished as a result of the plague, which was transmitted by infected fleas carried by rodents. Once infected, death came quickly, usually within 2 to 7 days of the initial symptoms. An ever-present awareness of death was one of the results of the plague's devastating sweep across Europe. It is not surprising that one of the reactions to this pervasive loss and horror was the personification of death itself. Do we fear less? What were we able to see? And thus, was there some small comfort in having a graphic depiction of death? In the face of the ever-present horror of the plague was the visual of the Reaper, a reminder for one to make sure his or her soul was ready for the afterlife. A visual delineation implies recognition. Perhaps the image of the Grim Reaper was simply an inevitable outcome of a blighted populace's familiarity with death. The Grim Reaper's ghastly skeletal appearance is symbolic of a desiccated corpse, a sad and common image during the Black Death. The Reaper's robes are perhaps reminiscent of the clothing that religious figures wore at the time, conducting the many funeral services for plague victims. The hourglass, an ancient and elegant tool for depicting the passage of time. It is a reminder that one's season on this plane of existence is finite. When the sands run out, our time on this earthly sphere is over. Given that Europe at the time was a predominantly agrarian culture, the Reaper's scythe seems to be a natural tool of choice. Instead of quickly and systematically cutting down crops ready for the harvest, the Reaper's mandate was to cut down souls for reaping. An altogether different kind of harvest. With the massive deaths of the plague, with so many dying in a relatively short period of time, and with mere days between initial infection and death, the scythe represents the cruel and efficient cutting down of many souls at once. And thus a benign agricultural tool had become a symbol of fear and death. Neither good nor evil. The Reaper is a force of nature. Tending to the graves, the tenants that lay. When one's time is up, as indicated by the Reaper's ever-present hourglass, the scythe is a useful tool for separating the ready-for-harvesting soul from the body. The Reaper does not cast judgment. His appearance merely portends the end of one's life on this plane of existence. It is his duty to sever the soul's last ties to life and grant that soul safe passages to the beyond. Whether you believe it is to be a heavenly abode or otherwise, beware the Reaper.
Hey, welcome to Cannibal Bob's Meat Shop. We got meat. Yeah, we got ribeyes, we got steaks. Anything you could make out of a human body. Come to Cannibal Bob's Meat Shop.
for Dr. Ravencroft's Theater of Horrors in waiting anticipation. Mommy wouldn't let me come, so there's no more mommy.
The abandoned hospital. Little Jimmy was out on his bike. He's going to visit Grandma. But something happened at the hospital. So much death, everyone has left. Noises of monsters and groaning. Little Jimmy is afraid. He wants to know where his grandmother is. Through the corridors, he finds the arms of the dead reaching through. Climbing through the once house. Death. Death comes. There's no more to tell.
This is a tale of 3 children bold, on one Halloween night, stormy and cold. Too much candy from their neighbors they did take. It is known that their greed set their fate. All the village's treats they did amass, except one last house, whose gates no one would pass. To this spooky old mansion the craving children went. To the last of the town's candy, they were fast on its scent. Along a path of shattered slate they cautiously walked, greeted by cawing ravens and a black cat that stalked. Clang, 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 the cauldron-shaped door knocker rang. Creak, 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 the giant oak doors slowly swang. Standing before them was the cutest child, almost their age. With a wink and a wave, he invited them into his magnificent Victorian cage. To his parlor they followed, where an enormous mound of sweet treats they did greet.
Where did you get all this candy?
The children dared to ask.
I took it from the good townspeople. 'Twas quite a task. Here, why don't you have some?
He offered, presenting a tattered old sack. Several pieces they took, smelled, and tasted, but moments later they began to gag and hack. The children cried,
It tastes like shoe leather and slugs mixed into a stale dough.
I'm not surprised,
the boy said,
as I stole it nearly a century ago or so.
The children's mouths agape, they did fear. What is this boy thing standing far, far too near? And for the first time he did smile, exposing teeth yellow, pointed, and vile.
Ew. And with those bites, you now share my plight, to live in this mansion for eternal night.
The thick doors groaned loudly and slowly began to shut. The children raced for their freedom, faster than any hunter's hungry mutt. What of their fate? Did they escape? No one knows, but have no fear. At least the town's candy is safe, and shall never again disappear. 'Twas the night of Halloween, when all through the streets every creature was stirring in search of some sweets. The moon shone bright o'er the new fallen leaves, and shadows lurked about like mischievous thieves. When out on the lawn there arose eerie laughter, I sprang from my perch to see what it was after. And what to my hollowed-out eyes should appear but a group of small children with motives unclear. Tiny tots all dressed up as goblins and ghouls, carting sacks full of candy like sure-footed mules. They filled me with fear, this gruesome young gang, as they crept to my door, and in unison they sang,
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give us something good to eat. If you don't, we will delight in haunting your house this Halloween night.
I spoke not a word, but just quickly obeyed, tossing handfuls of candy to this beastly brigade. Content with their spoils, they closed up their sacks, then turned from my door and quickly made tracks. But I heard them exclaim as they scattered from sight, Happy Halloween to all, and to all a good fright.
Here, in the deep, darkened forests, a forgotten place, a forgotten town. New Salem was the name of this evil place. The sickness witch, she resided here. She made a deal with the devil, they say. She rained hellfire and death throughout New Salem. The lords, they sent out their soldiers
That's Tina. Through that door!